Alright, let's keep rolling on our walkthrough of Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk. Today we're going to talk about Zorzula's Rest. I'm Dad the Dungeon Master, I've been a DM for over 10 years, and I'm a published author. I've already run this campaign multiple times, and I've made all the mistakes so that you guys don't have to. So let's dig in. A little bit of history of Zorzula's Rest that will help you as a DM understand some of the stuff going on here, and your party may or may not learn these things. It was a Duergar outpost that thrived for a while. It was taken over by Mind Flayers. They stayed for a good while. They even stored an Elder Brain down in the Indigo Sanctum. When their empire eventually fell, they also abandoned the place. And since, the goblins have come here and inhabited it. The leftover essence of that Elder Brain is what has given them their psionic abilities, but Ruxithid, their leader, believes it's these gods that he's communicating with. As a DM, you know that the gods he's communicating with are actually the three Mind Flayers, the main villains of the second half of this campaign. And he believes they're giving him the powers, but it's not. It's just the residual effect of the Elder Brain. So it only takes a day of travel to get from Phandalin to Zorzula's Rest. As the party approaches the area, all of the plant life seems to be dying out. The dirt changes from brown to black. And eventually they come to a cliff face with some tall, foreboding obsidian doors. This is the main entrance to Area Z1. There is another entrance where you can come in the top of Z6 through like a chimney that lets the steam out of the natural hot spring there, which the party can find with a DC 16 perception check. And then the badger hole that comes out of the pantry, it says that your party might know about that from their investigation back in Phandalin, but it doesn't really mention that in Phandalin unless they are saying that this is where the tunnel under the well comes out, which is what I think they're saying, though they never actually explain that. So Zorzula's Rest has certain features. It was built on top of a sulfuric lava spring, and the presence of sulfur causes the lava to have this purplish bluish hue, which I think is awesome. Different colored lava. Like I said, the dungeons in this second half, they're beautiful, they're well designed, and they're fun and unique and different in ways that you don't normally see. That lava causes sulfuric gas to kind of permeate this whole area. So anybody who enters here has to make a DC 10 con save or be poisoned for an hour. Once you have succeeded on that save, you're immune to the effects for 24 hours, and all the creatures that live here have all built up an immunity, so they don't have to worry about it. The floors and walls are made of gray igneous stone. The tunnels, the mining tunnels, are packed dirt and rocky sediment. And all around the outpost, there are these swirling geometric designs carved near the top of the walls, and they have channeled that bluish purplish lava to flow through them, bathing the entire area in this blue light, so it's lit, but also that is such a cool design. D&D has started like a bit of a movement lately where they want to make it so that every encounter can be handled without combat. And so toward that end, every time you run into goblins throughout this dungeon, if your party were to try to either intimidate or persuade them into not fighting, that option is there. I have not had a party do that because they're goblins and they're bad guys and they've been attacking the town and they have this stronghold. So every party I've done this with just goes in there and slaughters the bad guys. So it says in the book that that's an available option. We'll see what happens. Do what you want. These doors are so heavy that it takes a minute of effort to get them open. And there are arrow slits 10 foot high on either side. And there are goblin psi commanders behind each of those arrow slits. There is a lever in Area Z2 that will open this door, and it grinds open with a loud sound. There is that parapet that connects the two areas that the goblin psi commanders are in. And if a character's up there, they get 3/4 cover against anybody down below. It does say that the Psi Commanders here are a little bit salty about being put on guard duty by Ruxithid, so a DC 15 Deception or Persuasion check can convince them to open the door, or if the party offers them a 25 gold piece bribe. But if the party threatens any violence, they will attack, and 3 rounds later, the goblins from Area Z3 will also arrive to fight. Area Z2 is the Vestibule. It's kind of the connecting area. There's the 2 spiral staircases on either side that lead up to where the Goblin Psi Commanders were at, and it has that wall there. I really think this is just a way for your party to open that door and get inside without everybody in the mess hall just seeing them. So Area Z3 is the mess hall. At any time, there are 2d4 goblins, 1d6 Psi brawlers, and 1d4 Psi commanders eating in here. You can roll that if you like. I recommend you choose the number yourself ahead of time. That way it doesn't have to be random, but if you like rolling for random stuff, go ahead. It says that they panic and attack immediately, but they try to subdue the party instead of killing them, and if the party is all knocked unconscious, they will wake up with the prisoners way down below in the Sanctum. It says that if the party is disguised as goblins, they can make a DC 15 deception check to go through here without being attacked. It also says that if they make a DC 13 intimidation or persuasion check, the goblins will stop fighting, but they'll be wary of the party and they will try to make a deal, allowing the party to explore the stronghold, but only if they agree to take care of the monsters in Area Z7. Area Z4 is bunks. At any time, there's 1d6 goblin Psi brawlers sleeping in here. It's a DC 17 stealth check to avoid waking them up. And there's that opening to a tunnel on the far end. And if you do wake up the goblins, it's a DC 16 persuasion or intimidation check to make them be quiet. And they will also agree to let the party traverse the outpost if they agree to deal with the monsters in Area Z7. If asked about Ruxithid, these goblins will say that he's probably in the blue room communing with their gods. This refers to the Indigo Sanctum, Area Z19. So this opening at the far end of this room is a mine shaft that goes down 30 feet. Back in the day when the Duergars were running the place, there was a lift that went up and down. With a DC 10 investigation check, you can locate the problem with the mechanism. It's this crystal that is fractured. Anybody who is proficient in Arcana can tell that if you charge the crystal with a first level spell slot, it will begin to activate again. You do have to repair the crystal first. It takes a DC 16 Arcana check to repair the crystal, and anybody who is proficient with Tinkerer's tools gets to make this check with advantage. Once repaired, the lift will go up and down, staying 1 minute on each level, and it goes down to Area Z12. Area Z5 is just some latrines. It smells awful, it's horrible, but if a character has a passive perception of 13 or higher, which every party's going to have, they're going to discover a little panel that if pressed opens a secret door into Area Z6. Area Z6 is the hot springs. It's a 15-foot deep pool with steam curling off of it, and the steam rises to the vent in the ceiling that I mentioned before you could find if you investigate outside. So it can be used as an escape or an alternate entrance to the stronghold. It is a DC 18 athletics check to climb up to the vent. The spring actually has restorative properties, and for every 10 minutes you spend in the spring, a character regains 1d6 HP. What I like to do with the spring is I will do the 1d6 HP, but I'm not going to make them spend 10 minutes in there. But the other thing I do is I let the spring have the properties of major restoration. That way, if somebody has something going on, they can get it cleared up by dipping in the spring. So Area Z7 is where the monsters are the goblins keep talking about. The door is barricaded from the outside, trapping the monsters inside. With a passive perception of 12 or higher, you hear the moaning coming from inside. Like I said, every party's going to have that. And it's a DC 12 strength athletics check to move the junk out of the way of the door. Easy peasy. So in this room is a large glass window, the whole far wall that overlooks the bluish purplish lava below and that bridge that leads out to that little sanctum. There are 3 anvils in this room, and at each one is this spectral figure that's pantomiming blacksmithing in this weird unison, silent. And above is this track with these buckets on it. The track is not currently active, but you get the sense that the buckets were used to go down and gather ore from the mine below and bring it back up to be used in their smithing. The 3 smiths in this room are feral Ashen wights, and they will attack as soon as the party enters. The bucket conveyor overhead can be repaired using the exact same method as the lift in Area Z4. Once it's fixed, it continuously moves from here to Area Z18. If the party wants to use this to get to Area Z18, there's a step ladder to get up there, but it's a DC 15 acrobatics check to actually get into the bucket, and if they fail, they fall and they take 2d6 falling damage. Among the floor are several different pieces of armor and weapons. A DC 13 investigation check will reveal that there is a fancy longsword worth 200 gold pieces, a quartz-encrusted bronze breastplate worth 500 gold pieces, a gold-tipped javelin of lightning, and a silvery pair of bracers of archery. Now, I like to make the fancy longsword and the bronze breastplate +1 since they're here and they're fancy. It's cool that they're worth money, but it's even cooler if they have a bonus. So I do +1 longsword, +1 breastplate, the javelin of lightning, and the bracers of archery. Area Z8 is the kitchen. It has a little window that looks out into the mess hall and vice versa. There are embers still smoldering in the stove. There's bags of grain and vegetables. And as you come around and you see into the kitchen, there's a large badger, technically a giant badger, that's like head down in a bag of food, eating away. And when you come in the room, you see the badger notices you. She is super friendly, she nuzzles, she cuddles, she loves pets. The goblins have affectionately referred to her as Bessie, and she has basically become the goblins' pet. She's like the unofficial mascot of the goblins here at Zorzula's Rest. Area Z9 is a pantry, and there's a tunnel that Bessie dug through to get here. As I said before, I think that's the exit tunnel from the tunnel that leads from the well. A medium creature can fit through there with no problem. If a party member searches through the stuff in the pantry, a DC 15 investigation check, they will find 2 potions of greater healing and a potion of psionic fortitude. Area Z10 is the captain's suite. It has always been used by the leader of the group stationed here. It's currently Ruxithid's private quarters. It is locked. It requires either a DC 15 Thieves' Tools check or DC 15 Athletics to get the door open, or you can get the key from Ruxithid down below in the Sanctum. This is kind of a bougie room with a plush 4-poster bed, and there's a desk with a bunch of papers on it. The desk has a map of the surrounding area, though its locations are not labeled. And if you have at least a 15 passive perception check, you hear murmuring coming from a jar in the corner. It's an onyx black jar with geometric shapes around the rim. It's actually a murmuring jar, and it contains the soul of Zoljack Hollowhelm, the last captain of Zorzula's Rest when the Mind Flayers attacked. If the party moves over to it, he can see normally out of the jar, but he can't speak louder than a whisper, and he will enthusiastically try to convince the party to set him free. He will claim that he has intricate knowledge of the goblins' plans and that he will help them however he can. A DC 13 inside check will reveal that while he definitely will help the party as much as he can, he probably doesn't know as much about the goblins' plans as he is trying to convince them of. The jar is sealed with an intricate puzzle lock. It has to be held at exactly the right angle and aligned exactly perfectly for it to come off. It's a DC 15 investigation check to figure out the puzzle, or a DC 20 athletics check to just rip the jar open. Either way, once it's open, Zoljack will manifest as a peaceful Ashen Wight. Zoljack has intimate knowledge of the Outpost, its layout. He can tell you how to fix the lift and the buckets and the minecarts down below. If asked about Ruxithid, he'll say that he's tried to communicate with him whenever he's come into this room, but he just pores over papers and then leaves in a manic rush. And he'll admit that he doesn't know as much about their plans as he tried to convince the party of. He does know about 2 secret hiding places in this room. On the frame of the bed is a hidden panel that's a DC 20 investigation check to find on your own. But once pressed on, it's a hiding spot for a weapon so that whoever's in here would have a line of defense, I guess, if they were attacked at night. And it contains a dagger of venom. There is also a door to a secret vault in this room. If you examine the north wall with a DC 16 perception check, you will notice 4 dwarven symbols. The symbols are storm, death, light, and wind. And you have to push those symbols on the secret door in that order to get it to open without having a trap set off. If you push them in the wrong order, a trap will set off, and whoever's there has to make a DC 15 dexterity save or take 3d8 damage based on the symbol they pushed that was wrong. If they push death, it's necrotic, light, it's radiant, storm, it's lightning, and wind, it's force. Area Z11 is the vault, which you'll be able to get into through that secret door. It has about 930 gold pieces worth of coins, 4 pieces of jade worth 100 gold pieces each, a large peridot worth 500 gold pieces, 3 richly woven Duergar tapestries worth 75 gold pieces each, and a really fancy brocade worth 145 gold pieces. Area Z12 is the mining tunnel's entrance. It's where that lift comes down to, and there's nothing really in here other than that it has the connection to these 3 separate areas you can choose to go to. Area Z13 is the minecart maintenance chamber. There's a bunch of derelict minecarts, a stretch of track, and 3 bodies. The bodies are Duergar and their skulls are damaged. With a DC 16 Arcana or Medicine check, you can figure out that their skulls are the telltale signs of Illithids, Mind Flayers, eating their brains. The mine carts can be repaired using the same method that you repaired the lift or the buckets with upstairs. And once you repair them, you can hit a lever that connects the track back to the main track, and it runs all around this level of the dungeon you can see on the map. A DC 15 investigation in this area reveals a pair of Bracers of Celerity, a unique magic item that is in this book. Area Z14 is the Crystal Cavern. These green crystals glow and they match the gems that have been used to power these devices throughout this outpost. There are 3 Gricks in here that look very similar to the crystals, and they will attack. When the party enters, make everybody roll a perception check, and unless they roll 16 or higher, they are surprised by the Gricks. You can harvest these crystals to power those machines if you are unable to repair the crystals they had. The crystal spires have an AC of 15 and 25 HP. But each time a party member deals damage to one of the spires, they have to make a DC 16 dexterity saving throw or take 2d4 force damage as the energy contained in the crystal lashes back out at them. Once they shatter a spire, they can gather 1d6 shards, which can be used as a spell focus, sold to a magic user for 15 gold, or used to power those other devices. Area Z15 is the Cliff Strip Mine. There are 3 feral Ashen Whites and 3 psionic Ashen Whites that are mining this. They're trying to mine it. But the minecart runs along the top and they're on the bottom level of the 3 levels. The book says that with a DC 15 persuasion check or a 15 gold bribe, these Ashen Whites will reveal the location of Ruxithid, but I have not had a party yet try to talk to them. They just see them down there mining and are like, hey, they're not bothering us, we're not bothering them, and they go on their way. If you attack these guys for whatever reason, they will all turn and fight back. Area Z16 is the Cess Pit. The Duergar brought an Otyugh here generations ago to eat their waste, so they didn't have to dispose of it in another way. The Mind Flayers came, wiped out the Duergar, they left their psionic energy, and this guy has been mutated to now he's got this black chitinous cover with weird patches of translucent skin. With a DC 15 Arcana check, a character will realize that this is the diet and behavior of an Otyugh, even though it doesn't really look like one. And if they had their interaction with the Otyugh under the well, they make this check with advantage. It's a DC 12 stealth check to avoid detection by this creature. Because of the patches of translucent skin, with a passive perception of 14 or higher, you can actually see into the creature's stomach that it has a luminescent war pick in there. And the war pick can easily be retrieved from the body once the creature is slain. Area Z17 is the Shrine to Ilxsen. It has a statue of a noble dwarven warrior that has been defaced, its head's been knocked off, and it's had chunks knocked out of it, and there's this black, mucky substance spread on it with strange iconography. It's a DC 17 religion check to recognize the iconography belonging to Ilxsen, the patron deity of the Mind Flayer Empire. The first time that a character examines this shrine, they have to make a DC 20 charisma check, and on a fail, they get a piercing headache, and each time they close or open their eyes, they see weird alien tentacles coming in at the edges of their vision. I think that's super neat. They are also vulnerable to psychic damage, and these effects persist until they have them removed by a greater restoration or a remove curse spell. But I like to let the hot spring from area Z6 get rid of this negative effect if the party thinks to go use it, just because I think that's fun to have a solution that they can use if they remember it. With a DC 15 investigation check in the surrounding area of the statue, a character can find a ring of mind shielding. Area Z18 is a storage chamber. This is where the bucket conveyor comes out. And there's a really neat enemy in here. It is a fiendish augur. It's basically like a drill possessed by an evil spirit, and it will attack you ferociously when you enter. Once it's defeated, there are 30 pounds of unrefined ore here that if the party lugs them back to Phandalin, they can be refined into 7 ingots worth 25 gold pieces each. Most of the crates in here are unimportant, but there are 3 untouched smaller crates that require a DC 12 athletics check to pry open. The first one contains a light blue crystal shard with veins of indigo. It's a gem of brightness. The second has 4 large chunks of quartz worth 30 gold pieces each. And the third has a fist-sized amethyst worth 250 gold. Area Z19 is the Sanctum crossing. It's just a narrow bridge 20 feet above that lake of iridescent bluish purplish lava. They can feel the heat coming off of it, but unless they do something crazy, they're not going to fall off or anything. The bridge leads across to this pyramid shape with these fancy doors inlaid with silver geometric patterns. It's a DC 15 Arcana check to discover the secrets of this door, and if a party member speaks Dwarvish, they have advantage on this check. The lock is a small object with AC 12 and 30 hit points. It is immune to all damage except psychic. But once you pump 30 points of psychic energy into this lock, it unlocks and stays open for 10 minutes. It says if the party can't do psychic damage, they can convince a side brawler with a DC 12 persuasion or intimidation check to do it for them. Or, and I don't mention this unless they have no other options, they can use a Dexterity Thieves Tools check with a DC 18. Like I said, that's not fun. It's super neat that they have this psychic lock. So I would try to get your party to go through every available option to get through it with the psychic energy. And then if they're just stagnating and they're getting frustrated, then allow them to maybe roll an investigation check to figure out that they can pick the lock and do it the boring way. Once inside, the chamber contains a 15-foot diameter disc that's an elevator similar to the lift earlier that moves up and down 30 feet to the Sanctum below and stays for 1 minute on each level. Once down in the Indigo Sanctum, we get another awesome map. This was a sacred holy place for the Duergar when they were here. It was the home of the Elder Brain when the Mind Flayers were here. And now it is where Ruxithid meditates and communicates with his gods. In here, there are the two waterfalls that rain that bluish-purplish lava into this room. Across the way, there's a beautiful female dwarven statue with part of her head chopped off and cracks running down her arms. And then up on a platform behind her is Ruxithid, the leader. He has a gem jammed into his split open skull. He's taller and broader than other goblins, and his eyes turn an otherworldly green when he reaches out to communicate with the party. So the gemstone and his connection to the Mind Flayers has given him like a perception of the entire outpost, so he has known that you are coming. Ruxithid isn't aware that his gods are actually those Mind Flayers, and so he explains to the party that he is a divine harbinger, and that his quest for the shards is going to lead to the metamorphosis of the prime material. Though a DC 16 insight check will reveal that he's also having a separate conversation in his head, and so that his words are maybe not entirely his own. If the party shows no signs of joining Ruxithid or being convinced by his speech, he will attack the party. Green energy will emanate from his chest and imbue in the statue, and it will come to life and attack the party. It has the stats of a shield guardian. And the book says that if this combat seems like it's going to be too easy to add 2 goblin side brawlers, I would just go ahead and add them, have them magically appear like they're invisible, or have them rush in from one of the side chambers. But with just Ruxithid and the statue, it's going to be super easy. He can hover around and do other stuff, but one of his main abilities is allowing his allies to attack. So I would go ahead and have Ruxithid, the Shield Guardian statue, and 2 Goblin Side Brawlers, especially because it's the final battle of this dungeon. You want it to be pretty epic. Ruxithid will hover around. I would even have him go around the lava where your party can't reach him with melee. He will use his brain tentacles to attack the party and his combat command to let his other allies attack. This should be a fun battle. When Ruxithid is defeated, he falls to the ground and his crystalline brain splits asunder. And 3 discordant voices will explain that 4 shards are about to arrive and 3 more have yet to be found, and the locations of those 3. It's the final command that the 3 Mind Flayers were giving to Ruxithid. The 4 shards from Phandalin have been delivered or are about to be delivered, and these are the locations of the last 3 shards that Ruxithid needs to find. With a DC 13 religion check, the party will realize that this message isn't from a divine entity, that it's some other powerful source. On the west wing of this room, you will find the hostages' quarters. There are 3 hostages that have been taken from Phandalin still here, and they look like they're almost starved. They're on the edge of delirium. They say that the goblins were trying to assemble some sort of stone pillar, that there were other prisoners, but they have since been taken away for a special purpose, and that Ruxithid used the east wing as his war room. In the war room, you'll find a table with different papers on it, one of them being a map. It matches the map that's in Ruxithid's room, but this one has labels, and it labels the 3 locations that the voices mentioned. With a DC 15 investigation check, they can also find a rough sketch of an obelisk with 4 shards marked out and 3 more shards circled. It should be pretty clear with the message and with the sketch that those are the 4 that they found in Phandalin, and that those are the 3 that the voices said that are left to be found. I do a thing sometimes with my players where if they don't say something that they figured out, like if they don't figure out that's what's going on, I will tell them, your characters realize that. That way they get the information. I'm not just narrating it to them. And subconsciously they feel like they figured it out because their characters figured it out. So with that investigation check, when they find the sketch and with the voices, I'll be like, okay, with that, your characters realize that these 4 have been delivered from Phandalin, these 3 are yet to be found. And with D&D's movement towards trying to have more peaceful resolutions other than combat, with Ruxithid removed, the Sawplee goblins no longer are tied to this campaign that he was trying to execute. So you can actually negotiate a peaceful agreement between Phandalin and the remaining Sawplee goblins where they will no longer bother each other. And with that, you're finished with this chapter. Your party will level up. They can return to Phandalin with the information that they found. They will spend the next chapter going on their adventures to try and get those shards before the bad guys do. If you've made it this far, throw me a like. If you want to keep up with this campaign or other campaigns that I'm breaking down or current events in the D&D world, feel free to subscribe. Here's some other videos I've done that you might like. Thanks, guys.